Good morning, everybody, and welcome to what is, I think, the fourth or fifth iteration of Fireside Chats with Blues. My name is Alistair Fulton. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and VP of Ecosystem here at Blues. And I'll talk a little bit more about Blues in a moment or two. I'm sure many of those on the call have heard of us before, but I'll give a brief overview. Um, However, the real focus today is on the topic that I'm going to discuss with our esteemed guest, Haman, who is the co-founder of a company called Sento, that we'll learn a little bit more about in a couple of moments. First of all, very briefly on Blues. So Blues is a company that was founded back in 2018 by Ray Ozzie. And for those of you who've been in the tech space for a while, like me, I'm sure that name is quite recognizable. Ray was behind a number of fairly significant innovations in the enterprise IT space, including the development of Lotus, Lotus Notes. He was behind the development of Azure at Microsoft, and a host of other businesses that have really transformed the way that we work today. Blues is a company that he founded back in 2017, as I mentioned, really to take on what we see as one of the last unsolved challenges in IoT. And that's really the challenge of connecting everything, which sounds straightforward and surely haven't we solved this problem already? But actually it turns out to be the challenge that very often significantly delays and sometimes derails altogether IoT development activities. The goal of Blues is really to help customers and partners like Sento transform any physical product into a data-driven, intelligent service. And we do that by really focusing on making the process of building connected devices super simple with a standardized hardware endpoint that can be built into any device, that essentially takes all of the complexity involved in different technologies like cellular and Wi-Fi and satellite and LoRaWAN, and hides it behind a simple JSON-based API so that developers can do what developers do best, which is get on to solving their customers' problems, and they spend less time wrestling with the custom AT commands for different cellular modules and the vagaries of different technology types. This is partly based on the reality that IoT, there are a number of great wireless technologies that are used in the IoT, but no one single technology solves every single problem. And so by definition, the IoT has always needed a connectivity toolkit that allows developers to simply connect without going down a quite significant rat hole. And that's exactly what Blues sets out to solve. But as I said, this is not about Blues. This is actually very much about understanding a little bit more about Sento and the great work that Sento is doing. So, Haman, I'll pass over to you for a couple of moments to give an overview of who you are, who Sento
Yeah.
is, and the sorts of things you're doing.
Great. Alistair, thank you very much. And thank you for all the Blues team for inviting me to this space. As I say, it's always a pleasure to share some time together with the team from Blues. Well, I'm Herman Suarez. I'm a telecommunications engineer. I've been working in the IT industry for more than 16, 18 years, and specifically in the IoT industry for the last 10 years. When I started together with my business partner, Sento, looking to develop and to improve production processes using IoT technologies. Basically, we started focusing on the animal farming industry, where we develop a set of sensors and technology and a connectivity infrastructure to monitor those production units, I mean the farms, in real time with accurate data and also including like automation processes. So we've been developing since we started a technology to improve. Our final goal is to help improve those processes productivity, standardization, quality assurance, efficiencies in the consumption of resources. So we started like integrating technology from other countries, from the US, from Europe. At that time in 2015, there wasn't much available on the market. So all the technology we tested at that time was like or pretty expensive or focused on like automation, like this kind of PLCs, traditional systems to automate or control processes. And we know that the farms are pretty far in the country. The connectivity is very poor. Power supply is very unstable. You won't find like technicians easily in those places to work on your system. So we decided to develop our own technology. We started like developing prototypes using the Arduinos, Raspberry Pis, these kind of models. And then after a couple of years, when we knew what was required in the market, like when we knew all the characteristics and limitations of this market, then we decided to develop our own technology. So working from the connectivity models to all the microprocessors, sensors that were integrated into the systems, developing something that was very plug and play, easy to deploy, robust, because in those farms you will see like a lot of like ammonia concentration in the environment, a lot of humidity, dust. Animals are like, that's like a war zone actually. There's nothing more aggressive than chickens going crazy or pigs or hungry pigs. So we had to develop something like very robust. We have developed our systems in more than 1,000 farms in Latin America, in Colombia, the US, the Caribbean, also in a couple of countries in Asia. And now we are also deploying our technology in other industrial processes, like more industrial plants or other like industries like food industry, paper manufacturing, because we had a very robust technology focused on industrial processes, so it is suitable for all these industries. One of our main differentiators is that we develop our technology, we assemble it in our factory here in something that I didn't mention before. I'm based in Medellin, Colombia. I'm originally from Venezuela. I've been living here for 12 years now. And so we have our operation here in Medellin, and from here we assemble our products and then we ship to other countries worldwide. We also have another business unit that is called Central Electronics Hub, where we work with other customers managing their supply chain related to their electronic products. So we do all the sourcing, assembly, quality assurance for their electronic products. And we in this business unit, we serve mostly companies from the US. So yeah, basically, yeah, to summarize, I've been in the IoT industry for more than 10 years. I'm very passionate about it. I feel like every time I get to know a new industry or a new sector, there is a bunch of opportunities where we can improve or where we can generate value, because there's lack of like monitoring or visibility on these processes. And so I feel very optimistic, because I think there's plenty of opportunities to impact many industries.
What do you think is, I mean, as you mentioned, when you look at virtually any industry, it's very clear to see the opportunity for the solutions that we group together and call IoT. They're all very different. What do you think has held up adoption of those solutions, given that there are so many clear opportunities for value?
I think one thing we have to solve is that people or like these industries, they don't need more data. And so we were focused on when you think about IoT solutions, you think about gathering data and giving more visibility of the processes. But I think that markets don't need data anymore. I mean, they need insights. They need something that's already digested. So I think that the best way to improve the adoption of these technologies is by giving a solution that's actually useful for the customers. I think real-time data is pretty important to have a better control on the processes. But it's more like an assurance. I mean, to make sure that everything is working better, but giving them insights about how to help them improve productivity or improve efficiencies. I think that's where you make the big change.
Do you think, I mean, obviously we hear a lot about AI and the potential for AI in IoT today. Do you think that that's the key? I mean, is that something that it solves the problem, or is it something that's making customers aware that there is a solution, potentially to the problem?
No, I think it's necessary. AI, I think I mean, not like, besides like the hype right now with AI, I think if you don't have like these kind of tools to process all the data that you gather from the real world, then it would be impossible to understand what's going on. I mean, imagine having 5,000, 10,000 sensors deployed on the field. I mean, if you don't have tools based on AI that will help you get the most insights or analyze which, I don't know, processes are more critical or how to predict the performance of a specific process in the future, then it's going to be impossible to use these technologies.
And what sort of, I mean, it's interesting. You sit within as you said, you're in Medellin in Colombia, and the business, I think, Sento started quite focused on South America. You've obviously expanded since then. From what you've seen, and I know you travel a lot because I see you in various places around the world. What's different about the environment in Colombia for IoT versus other markets? And I guess the market in South America as a whole. Do you see any particular differences?
Like specifically in the Colombian market? Like the adoption,
Yeah, I mean,
you mean, or?
I mean, I've always kind of regarded that market as there's a heavy agricultural base of opportunity in South America, Colombia especially. There are a lot of customers trying to solve really fundamental problems that have really significant value, and a lot of the solutions that you mentioned, pig vision, which is weighing pigs without having to physically touch them. You have similar solutions for weighing chickens, and a solution which provides carbon dioxide, temperature, humidity monitoring in chicken farms. I mean, all of these solutions do two things. They solve the business problem directly, and they also reduce stress on the animals that comes through handling, and which in turn improves health, and in turn. But do you see those solutions? Our customers, I guess, in Colombia more actively engaged and more, are they leaning in more than elsewhere, or is it kind of similar?
No, I would say I mean, in the animal farming industry, there is like a growing challenge in Colombia and also everywhere. I mean, in the US is a more critical problem is the lack of labor in the country. So
Mhm.
it's harder to find people to willing to work on the farms. I mean, it's a harsh environment. It's not an easy work. So it's harder to find people willing to work in those places. So every activity that you can automate or you can where you can be more predictive, like not having to do like
Mhm.
activities that were not required or that demands labor. For example, waiting a pig takes three people. I mean, waiting for example, a 300-pound pig, it's really hard to make him go through the scale
And
and
still,
have an yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And they get very stressed, as you were saying. So all
mm,
of these technologies are helping like producers depend less on labor. So that's one of the things we are solving. The environmental concern about the resources that these farms use, it's becoming more and more important to these companies. So for example, when we have to when they treat water in the farms because they have to control the pH of the water, and we can help them reduce the use of these chemicals or the water usage for the farms. It's also like very useful for this industry. So I think it's a generalized need in different countries.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on this earlier. I would say the concern, or at least the focus on efficiency in particularly meat production, but agriculture in general, is increasing very significantly.
Yeah.
That's made worse by labor costs and the difficulty in attracting labor. But I think the level of attention from consumers as to the impact of the products that they consume is increasing, and I think that the way to solve that is to improve efficiency, and as you said, that's really the focus. The other thing that strikes me about what you're doing, and you touched on this earlier as well, is you're providing a full solution. And when you're working in the agricultural space, goodness knows we're not farmers, probably thankfully for everybody else. But it's a very skilled profession, of course, but it's not one that's necessarily highly technical in nature. Um, and so I think for a long time we've seen companies providing toolkits and build yourself a solution. Sento doesn't do that, do you? You provide a full, as you said, design, manufacture, distribution, everything.
Yeah, well, one of the things we do, Alistair, is that we don't serve the final customer. So, for example,
Mhm.
with our smart farming solutions, we work with Asymmetrics, which is a partner, our biggest partner, and they are the ones that really know and understand the market.
Mhm.
So I mean, they know that mortality is a big issue in the farms, weight gain. So they know the key factors that farmers control to make sure that everything is going well on the farms. So that's one of the big learnings that we had in the last couple of years is we are focused on getting quality data, good quality data. I mean, Cento looks to, if we're going to measure temperature, if we're going to measure pH, we have to do it right. So
Mhm.
companies like Asymmetrics that will work based on those measurements, I mean, they have a reliable data to work with. So we are
Mhm.
not working with the final market, the end customer, but we are working with partners that will use our measurements to provide insights, and they are the ones that really understand the market.
Now, the word partnership is something that's very close to our heart at Blues, because we think that the IoT it's a partner activity, and there's been a long time, I think, where maybe there wasn't as much partnership in this space as there needed to be. But talk to me a little bit about Sento's partner ecosystem. You just mentioned Asymmetrics as they essentially are your channel into the agricultural space. But what other partners are you working with?
We are working currently in a big project with Cloudtainer, which is a securing and tracking solution for containers. We are working with them developing a smart lock that will secure and track containers. So it's a device that's going to be connected to the cloud through cellular, satellite connectivity, and it's going to secure this. There are plenty of solutions in the market to track containers or trucks or fleets right now, but there's no solution to also secure the container. So there are many like simple locks that would make sure that you didn't open the container or things like that, but the security from those devices is not really good. So the cloud lock will have a smart system that you will be able to use your smartphone, like NFC technology, to open the container, and the spotters or logistics companies will be able to know who opened the container, when they were open, and if somebody tried to force them. So we are working with them, developing all the product, and it's going to be initially focused on the traffic from Latin America to Europe. As you may expect, there are a lot of like risk, especially for example, from drug cartels trying to put drugs inside your containers, things like that. So yeah, we are working. Cloudtainer is similar to Asymmetrics. Cloudtainer is the one that knows the market. They know everything about logistics. They've been working in the logistics market for more than 20 years. So they are the ones working with the transport, freight forwarders, customs in each country to align all the ecosystem in order to be able to like use this kind of technologies.
Now, I remember you mentioning this to me before. The Cloudtainer project sounds fascinating because, as well as solving for where is it, tracking and security, you're also addressing a very specific cost driver in import-export, aren't you, in the form of inspections?
Yeah. For example, when you are a avocado exporter, you ship, I don't know, like 1,000 containers to Europe every year from any country. I mean, from Peru, from Ecuador, from Colombia, for just a couple of examples. When you ship those containers to Europe, because they are coming from countries where the influence of drug cartels is big, they will ask you to do a physical inspection in a big percentage of your containers. So one of the key benefits from using Cloudtainer is that it's going to be validated by the customs authorities in these ports from Europe, for example, Rotterdam, or from ports from Spain, for example. And there is like a new global regulation that says if you are able to track your container, your product, your container in real time, and you are able to see who opened it, then you will need to do a physical inspection at the end port. So every physical inspection, it's about 1,000 euros. So just avoiding that extra cost, it will make sense to use these kind of solutions.
That's a pretty straightforward business case right there, if you can avoid 1,000 euros each time.
Yeah, and imagine having your fruit in the port for 5 days till they get expected. So
Mhm.
it's a big time when you think about food, or it's a lot of time when you think about food
Yeah,
or
sure.
these kind of products.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and not I would say not just an issue with transport from South America to the rest of the world. That's a global issue in terms of the speed of transit through inspection, particularly with the European Union and the Brexit situation, and obviously something
Yeah,
that affects
yeah,
some of
that's right.
the countrymen.
Yeah,
Now, obviously, we oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, obviously, Blues and Sento have been partnering for some good time and things. Talk to me a little bit about the work that we're doing together, and how is Blues helping you?
Eh, as as I was telling you, where we want to focus is on getting like really good quality data, right? So we focus a lot on how the sensors or how our devices interact with the real world. We don't want to
Mhm.
focus on how it gets connected to the cloud. In our earlier versions or generations of devices, we had like a cellular model inside our gateways or nodes, and we had to deal with connecting it in Colombia and then sending it to Ecuador, and then having to configure different kind of parameters to be able to be compatible with the provider there. And if we were going to ship it to the US, then we will have to make sure that that device was FCC certified and comply with all the regulations between different countries. So now with Blues, we integrated the node card in our gateways, and we don't have to worry about that, about the connectivity. So we have our information in the node hub. We consult. I mean, we gather that information from the node hub, and we can be focused on improving our measurements and how the device interacts with the real world. So it's been very useful, and it has given us a lot of speed when developing new products, especially when you have to consider that the device is going to be deployed in different countries or different regions. Also, one of the things where Blues is helping us is in the management of the fleet. For example, when you have, for example, we had 5,000 devices on the field, and we had to manage 5,000 SIM cards. So, yeah, it was becoming a nightmare to manage all of them, paying like monthly services fees for each one, and we had like 500 units SIM cards that we weren't using, and we were paying services for them. And so I think I think Blues is solving a big issue in the IoT industry, like worrying about all the connectivity layer for this kind of devices.
That's great to hear. I mean, we're focused on doing what we think is the complicated and boring and frustrating bit
Yeah.
of getting the data from A to B. It's very exciting for us to be able to partner with folks like Sento, because you're actually doing the interesting things. You're building solutions to real world problems, and so it's really exciting to see and to hear about things like the container project that you're working on at the moment. Yeah, that's the IoT in action, really
And with
delivering.
the Yeah, and with cloud tenure, we are especially interested in the start node model, because we need to have coverage on during all the trip from here to Europe. So having a satellite a solution available, like suited for IoT applications, it's great. I mean, I we explored a couple of years ago to have satellite connectivity, and with this project we did it again, like in more detail this year, and I was surprised that there wasn't like still like solutions available for IoT applications. You would find like Iridium or SmartSat, like things like that, but you will have to put like a device of this size to be able to connect to the satellites. And it was incredibly expensive modules, so it wasn't suitable for IoT. And so I'm pretty optimistic about this new model from
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, and it was feedback from Sento and other partners who led us down that path, because you're obviously not the only company that has experienced the difficulty of building satellite connected products. The cost, for something that might only be used in case of emergency if an asset is outside of the coverage area. So I'm conscious of the time. I think Jesse, we were going to open up for some questions from the audience, I think, at this point. I have not put Jesse on mute. Let's see if we've got.
Hi, yes, Alistair. Audience members, please go ahead and submit your questions through the Q&A box. We did ask if you had any questions at registration, and we do have a few of those. If you want to go over those.
Sure, let's start with those. So I guess the first question we got was quite a good one, actually. How do you go about deploying all tech-related possibilities in industries where there is not a data culture? I guess let me translate a little bit. So what are the challenges involved in implementing technology solutions in the sorts of industries that you're focused on, Herman? Agriculture is a great example, where I'm sure many farms still don't collect data in any systematic way. What's the start point for Sento? How do you tackle that sort of environment?
I think the key here is to understand very well the need. I mean, everyone gets very excited to start measuring everything. They wanna. I'm gonna give you a quick example about a pilot that we recently did with in a flower farm company from here. Colombia is the second flower exporter in the world, so flower industry is a big thing here. There is a big opportunity there for IoT solutions. But when you go there, when you go to any new industry or any new company, they will ask, I want to measure everything. I don't measure temperature, pH, humidity, CO2, everything. They want to measure everything. But once you start measuring everything, and then they have nice charts and reports and alerts and Excels, tables, spreadsheets, right? So the first week they're gonna review all the information. They're gonna do like pivot tables, and they're gonna, I didn't know that this was happening and everything. After a couple of weeks, they won't have time to do this. So if you don't give them insights, if you don't solve their pain points, I mean, what really hurts them in the operation, in their daily work, and yeah, so at some point they will get bored about the technology. I think industries like agriculture, they've seen, I mean, they're more traditional than other industries. So if you are able to solve, to make the life better for the people responsible of the operations, then you're guaranteed that you will have an opportunity to generate value there. But as I was saying, you need to develop a solution layer that will translate the data into insights and to useful information.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, by the way. I think, I've been in this industry for a long time, let's say 25 years or so. And I have to say that there was a good period of time where I didn't ever feel that people were talking to customers, because the whole principle of measure everything, collect all of the data, leads exactly to the issue that you've described. I've got 50 different charts that give me data about what's happening, but none of it gives me an answer. None of it tells me what I should do next. It's almost give me a red LED that goes off when there's a problem, give me a green LED when there's no problem. I can then use this information in a applicable and workable way. And actually delivering that solution is hard. It's harder than it's easy to deliver complexity, and
one
complexity
great,
kills.
yeah, I agree. I just another comment, something that we learned in the past. You're giving more hardware to the client, right? I mean, you'll have to deploy hardware in order to have an IoT solution. So you are giving them more work, more like things about, I mean, they will have to worry about more technology. So you're giving them more work. So there's going to be somebody that's going to be responsible for that device or for that hardware. You have to make his life easier. I mean, they'll have to see a benefit from having that device on their responsibility. Otherwise, they won't take care of it, and they won't bother about if it's right, if it's connected, if it's dirty or whatever. So you have to make sure that the people that's involved directly in the management of that solution see benefits from.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point as well, because when you walk into an industrial settings and you see gateways not connected, it may not be that the company is not generating benefit, but whoever is responsible for maintaining that hardware isn't. If it's not maintained and not plugged in, chances are that they just see it as additional work. And I do think that we as an industry have got very excited by the possibility of connecting all the data. We've got very excited by the possibility of putting sensors on everything. And I think sometimes we've not paid enough attention as an industry to exactly what you've just described, which is the person on the ground who's responsible for installing and maintaining. What was the value delivered to them? What do you see as being, I guess, beyond what you're already doing, which is building kind of complete solutions? Is there something that we should be doing as an industry to kind of educate one another? Because I still see companies, following that same path, sending that same message, and not really listening to customers in the way that they should. Is there any broader solution that we should be talking about?
Alistair, can you go again? I mean, I didn't get it.
So the problem that you point to, or the issue that you point to, of understanding customer needs and actually answering those, is something that exists now. It existed 10 years ago, it existed 20 years ago, and I've often wondered personally, what else can we do as practitioners in this space to help address that, other than, I guess, what Sento is doing, which is building real world solutions? Is there anything? I don't know that there's an answer to the question, but it's struck me for a long time.
I think one of the challenges, I mean, it happened to me as an entrepreneur and as an engineer, is that I think too much about the technology, and I think this is very cliche and everyone said. I mean, you have to. Yeah, we get very excited about measuring everything, about having a technology that's pretty sophisticated and looks pretty awesome. I think it's slowly changing. I mean, compared to 5-10 years ago, where I think it's like the hype that all these kind of technologies suffer. Like, yeah, everyone is right now like using AI, but then we'll start to see where it's useful or and where it's not. And so I think it happened the same with IoT. We wanted to measure everything and gather a lot of data, and now we are seeing that. And I think one of the difference now is that before it was like pushed by the adoption of these technologies was pushed by IoT technologies, but now it's like how like companies with with products are like pulling that the integration of that technology into their solutions. Right? So like having the, like cold chain or like refrigeration industries, like, hey, I know maintenance is a big issue in our industry, and it's a big percentage of the operation cost of our infrastructure. So yeah, how do we use it? How can we be more efficient on this process using IoT? So they are like the ones pulling that the adoption of these technologies.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I see a lot of customers, who are motivated by, they realize that having a connected device that can support intelligent services is a competitive necessity, that they're, someone else in their market has introduced it, or they've started hearing about it from customers so often. And it's normally in the context of, how do I make this less expensive to maintain? How do I increase the output? How do I improve efficiency? It's not about technology. Technology is the answer to the problem. But the question is nothing to do with technology and everything to do with just business drivers and environmental drivers as well. And the two are very much aligned, I think, in IoT, because if you can produce something for less, then by definition, you're consuming less raw material and likely producing less harmful output. Now, I realize we're almost at time, so I'm going to ask you one final question, which is, what is the most exciting IoT application that you've seen recently? What are you, because you're very active in this space, probably more so than many of the folks on the phone. What's the thing that you've seen in recent months that's really made you stop and think, wow, that's a game changer?
That's a good one. I'm not sure. I would say I don't know. I'm always impressed about all the artificial vision solutions. I think that it has a really big potential. And how do we integrate them into I'm gonna go a little bit away from IoT, but I think it's just fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited about what's going on in robotics.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about robotics is, I mean, it's been there for a while, but what I see now is that you have solutions that are pretty cheap, and you will be able to automate and improve processes without investing what you needed before. I mean, like automation a couple of years ago was only available to really big factories or car manufacturers or things like that. But now you can get a robot for $3,000, and you will be able to easily deploy an automated process without having a really big engineering team. So, because what I see with IoT is that, okay, it's good to monitor, but at some point, if you integrate IoT with automation, then I mean, the value it's exponential. So I think the integration with IoT and robotics it's gonna be amazing.
I think I'd agree, actually. I think it's the integration between these different technologies and seeing them used together that really starts to, and if you can combine, you know, the ability to generate, as you said, good data, the ability to take physical action in the real world through robotics, with the ability to bridge the gap between the two using AI or ML to interpret what you're seeing, you know, drive insight, and then, you know, that it's that full chain, isn't it? That is data driven, you know, process optimization. And if you can create a system that can do that and that can improve itself, you know, that I think starts to get really interesting, particularly when you look at some of the, you know, the industries like mining and you know, heavy industry that like it or not, if we're going to achieve electrification goals, you know, we're going to have to mine a lot more copper, we're going to have to mine a lot more lithium, we're going to have to, and so those processes and those industries cannot go away, but they have to become very much more efficient, and doing so, I think, requires an integration between sensor-driven insight, robotics in the real world, and the bridge between the two. And machine vision within that is a really interesting topic as well. And I mean, you and I could probably talk for a good few hours on that topic alone.
Yeah,
Machine vision, I
yeah.
think it's fascinating. I think we're at time. So I'm going to say thank you very much, Hanan. It's been a really interesting conversation. It always is with you. I look forward to the next time I see you face to face. Not too long, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so.
But I'll wish farewell. Jesse, I don't know whether you wanted to say anything in closing.
Thanks for joining us today. You'll receive a link to view the recording tomorrow, so you can forward it and share it with your team. Thank you, everyone.
Excellent. Thanks, Hanan. Talk to you
Hi,
soon.
thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Bye-bye.